This is what I say to integrators. So I'm curious. I just want to ask you and see what you think of this when people ask me that question too. I want to see what you think of this idea. And I'm a bit biased because I like a lot doing stuff with realtors, and you've been getting into it too. I know you like have your podcast with Ryan Zolan, and I saw you did like cold calling agents thing. I've thought that like for the more integrator types, I feel like agents might be the hack, in my opinion. I don't know what you think, because agents really close the seller. I don't feel like you really close an agent like you kind of do. It's so much more business to business that it's much more like I'm just going to tell you what I need and then you're going to go convince the seller of it. I don't know. What do you think of that? Like, do you think that's valid or do you
Jonah,
think that's hard?
referrals are the best.
Right.
Referrals are the best. You're already liked and trusted. And just so that anybody that's real new to this, and I'm sorry that I talk really fast and I get really excited about this. I think it's the absolute most incredible business of all time.
It's
that
amazing.
with this thing right here, this rectangle right here is your portal to $100 million or whatever you want it to be. And you could just out of the ether, pull out income by just being brave and having the courage to go and talk to people every single day. So that's why I get like tremendously excited about this business, right? I mean, it is absolutely life-changing. But when you are talking to an agent or when you're talking to the property owner, you need to find out 4 things. Every conversation is about 4 things. And this is the conversation that the agent already knows. And that's why, Jonah, you're so right. It's a beautiful hack because you get the insider information. You need to know the condition of the property, their timeline to sell that property, their motivation, and their price, right? Mm-hmm. Well, what does an agent know? They've got pictures. They know the condition. They know what's wrong with the property. What's the timeline? They're ready to sell now. It's either on the market or about to be, right? They understand the motivation. They've had these conversations with them and they're like, I can't deal with these tenants anymore. I'm going to lose my house. I have too many code violations. I'm behind on taxes, whatever it is. The agent knows that. It's like they're comfortable talking to them, almost like a therapist. And then it's just the price. And when all you have to do is come up with the price and say, I can make this as smooth as possible. Is this something that they would consider? Then the agent goes and does the selling for you.
Exactly.
It's brilliant. The only issue I have with it, Jonah, is you have to wait. The only issue I have with it is you don't have control of your schedule. Because when that agent reaches out to you, Jonah, and you're at the gym, you're on a date, you are on vacation, if you don't respond quickly to that, they're going to take it to somebody else. Right. And so because of that, you always have a little bit of anxiety that you're going to miss out on a great opportunity if you turn your phone off, if you totally unplug from the business. If you're out there and you're being proactive by making calls to people, you're having the conversation on your schedule. Right. Like, you're not talking to people. People aren't sending you stuff, after 5 o'clock. You're not typically having those conversations unless they need to have it, right? But you have conversations in your own schedule. When you can control your schedule, you can be consistent. When you can be consistent, you can be sustainable. Right. And that's why I see some people that just try to build that real estate agent model up struggle at times when they don't get enough referrals coming in.
Got it. So I know you mainly do direct to seller, like that's how you started.
Yeah.
But like, I'm just curious because especially on this podcast, you've been like referrals are the way to go.
Yeah.
Would you change how you did it back in the day?
1,000%.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Referrals is just way better than direct to seller.
I knew that the power of this business is buyers. I knew it, Jonah. I knew it. I just wanted to talk to sellers. I wanted to find the deals. I was a deal junkie. You know what I mean? And so I became a cash buyer employee. I had 5 buyers, right? And I took every single deal to them, and they would wholesale them out or they would close on them, but they would make way more than I would. And so I figured it out and really built a huge cash buyer database. And there's power there. And once you have that, then you can really start getting the referrals.
What do you mean by you were an employee or a cash buyer employee? Like, were you wholesaling or were you an agent at this time?
No. When you sell to the same buyers every single time, you're their employee.
Interesting. Okay. That's I've never heard that before, but that makes sense.
The CBE, baby, a cash buyer employee. Don't do it.
Okay.
When there is not healthy tension between you and your cash buyer, you are getting 50% as much as you should be.
That's so true. That's
It
so
is, right?
interesting. Yeah, it's just something I've noticed in other people too. Like certain people have told me it's like, really, you only need 10 buyers. I'm like, nah. Like I like
That's
having a huge
bananas.
people
That's
come in.
bananas. I mean, look at Keegley. They
Right.
have 80,000 in every market.
Yeah,
There's a
exactly.
reason for that. There
Right.
and the reason for that is when you understand there's levels to this game, and the levels are based on who can recognize potential the best, right? And if you have different buyers in there that recognize different potential, you might look at a vacant piece of land and think it's worth 500,000. I might look at that piece of land and know that it's worth 5 million,
Mm,
right? So that's what I'm talking about. You might look at that little rundown house and think that it's worth 150. I might think that it's worth 70. You know what I'm saying? Like there's just levels to this game, and that comes with experience. And what you do when you build your cash buyer database is you bring all that experience right into your lap. When you send out these properties, you get feedback on them and you understand what's going on in your marketplace because you got everybody that is doing different ways of recognizing the potential of that property. And
interesting.
that's how you sell properties for more each time.
Gotcha. Yeah, 100%. Okay, this is also something I wanted to mention because I want to promote your stuff too. The rhinoceros. Can you
Yeah.
explain that to my audience? Why do
Yeah.
you have a rhinoceros right there?
Listen, so we have the Rhino Tribe, that's Wholesaling Inc., right? And
Mm.
I've been a coach for Wholesaling Inc. for 5 years, and I recently purchased Wholesaling Inc., so I'm now the owner of Wholesaling Inc.
Woo! Let's
Yeah, that's
go.
right. Yeah, let's do it. Come on, why not?
Yeah, you got your bell. Woo! I love that thing. That's such a
But
good
we
idea.
call it we call it the Rhino Tribe because Tom Kroll, who created the company, read a book called Rhinoceros Success, and he
Mm.
talks about in that book. It talks about just charge. If you have a goal, charge forward. Charge forward with thick skin. You're going to have things coming at you, but if you stay focused on that goal, you're going to get it because you're a big, powerful company. You're a big, powerful person. You're a big, powerful 5,000-pound rhinoceros, right? And that's the mentality of it is don't overthink it. Don't get stuck with what we call the 3 Ds, right? Doubt, distraction, and disappointment. Just be a rhinoceros and be powerful and charge forward and find those opportunities. Do your first deal. So that's why we have that to me, a rhino always symbolized just like power and kind of not giving a shit and just going for it and not worrying about what anybody's thinking about and just charging forward. And you do that, you win.
I love it. Also, by the way, I love how you have like acronyms. It's like we got the 3 Ds, we have the 4 pillars, we've got
Yep.
like all this stuff. I'm just curious as an educator, have you noticed like that gets people more engaged? Like having
1,000%. The reason is it gets me engaged.
TTP, like
So, right. Talk to
there.
people. Right. Acronyms. Just keeping it. The idea is to keep this as simple as possible. I mean,
Mhm.
if you really want to just boil it down, go find a property owner that owns an ugly house and ask them if they would consider an offer.
Right.
From there, find any investor in town that will help you do that deal.
Yep. I
And
love
that's it.
it. I love it
That's it.
so much. I remember like when I was starting in this business being like, wait a minute, everything around me could be a treasure chest. Like I realized I'm like, oh,
Absolutely.
it's like scavenger hunting everywhere. Like I hadn't been looking at these houses beforehand, but literally that could be $50,000 right there, or like even more, or $10,000 or $20,000. This business,
What's the biggest deal you've done, Jonah?
the biggest deal I've done is $142,000. That's
100.
because I'm in SF.
Yeah, you're in San Francisco. But
Yeah.
how did you find that deal?
So cold calling. I mean, it was cold calling. I was just cold calling. I think it was a tax liens list.
You called them?
I called them. This was like back
So
in the day.
one conversation, right? That was the
One
seed.
conversation.
That was the seed, right? If you were to look at, okay, how much time, literal time that it took you to make that 140,000, how many hours do you think?
Um,
With just that seller?
oh, just with that seller?
Yes.
Maybe like 2 hours, 3 hours of like actually talking to them. Yeah,
Right.
something like that. Yeah, something like that. That is crazy to think about. Like that was the one that like changed the
That
like I
hooked
had
you.
made deals, but that one I'm like, oh, I can move out of the house now. Like
It
I
breaks
can
your
actually
brain.
do
It
things.
really breaks your brain. I say anything that you, and we talk about it in the Rhino Tribe. We push everybody to join the 50K club, because at $50,000, your brain breaks. It
Yep.
looks at money different.
Yeah.
It really does. All of a sudden, you're like, I can do a six figure. I could do a $250,000. I can do $1 million deal, right? When before, when you have, $18 in your checking account, or 1,800 in your checking account, or whatever else, and you're thinking about $50,000, you're like, that might as well be $1 billion. And then
Right.
you get it, and you're like, wait, what is happening?
Yeah.
The
It's in
grooves
that
in my
way.
brain are starting to get deeper. I'm starting to think bigger. You know what I
Right.
mean? And that's when things really get exciting.
I love it. That is amazing. Can you what's the biggest deal you've gotten? Are you willing to say?
178.
Nice. Was it
Yeah,
assignment? We're
178.
talking about assignments?
That was a double close.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Mine was also a double close. I was tripping. I'm like, nobody can, this has to go through type of thing.
Yeah.
But okay, I was just curious. So, all right, I'm going to bring it back to your story a little bit because we got off track there. So, how did you get through that period? Right? Like, I don't know if there's many people watching right now who's like had their business crash yet
Yeah.
or at
Yeah.
all. But like, I definitely know there are a lot of people watching who are like having that head banging moment of like trying to make it work. Like, I don't like, what advice do you have for those people? Like, what's your like number one? Maybe another way of saying this is like, what's the number one thing you think makes the difference between somebody who makes a deal
Yeah.
and or gets their first deal and doesn't?
The difference between must and have. I
Hmm.
mean, I'm sorry, must and want.
What's
So
that
you
mean?
could want to do a deal, right? You could want to be successful. You could want to create wealth. It's a lot different when it's a must. I must not have a 9 to 5 job. I
Mm-hmm.
must not live an average life. I must not be in debt anymore. I must be the magnet in my family. I must change what Max Maxwell talks about, his financial family tree,
Mm-hmm.
right? I must have all of these different things. It's much different than want. Want is silly, right? Want is like, okay, great. But the must have, that's the difference. I mean, if you looked at the top, I don't know, 200 or 300 students of mine, I would say that it was a must for all of them. And then it's about progress, not perfection. And I
Mm-hmm.
think if people really understand that it's about progress, not perfection, then they understand that the little wins are crucial. Like getting into your car is a win. Driving down the street is a win. Seeing an ugly house is a win. Looking and writing down that address is a win. Going back and typing that into Google under the white pages is a win. Getting a phone number is a win.
Mm-hmm.
Calling that person is a win, right? Like all of these things are the win. That's the progress, not perfection part of it. And I think that that's really important, because I think that we try to compare ourselves to where we think we should be already. And that
Mm-hmm.
always messes us up. And we're like, well, I already should have a deal by now. I've been doing this for 3 months, 3 weeks, 6 months, 6 weeks, whatever it is. And I should have something done.
Right.
And
Expectation is the greatest thief of joy. I've heard that saying before. Like, it's just
comparison.
expecting that. Yeah.
Comparison is the thief of joy, but it's also the
That
seed
one.
of greatness. So, I mean, is the full saying, but I think that you can quiet the noise if you're in action. I think that's why we love the
Mhm.
rhino as like a logo, or as a spirit animal or whatever, because if you're always in action, you don't have time for all this noise. You don't have time for all this
Right.
stuff. Idle hands do the devil's work, right? And the
Mm.
devil's work just means like the self-limiting beliefs that we have in our own head. We are incredibly powerful people. We have incredibly powerful brains. Not everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. Not everybody wants to like be obsessed with providing value to the community and marketplace. That's what a
Mhm.
business is. And so we're just different. So if you're wired different, let it loose. Let it loose. You know what I
I love
mean? Go
it.
out there and go talk to people and have good quality conversations with distressed property owners, and you win.
Yeah, I 100% agree in the sense that I think it's something that entrepreneurs we really like are bad at because we always want more in the sense like you were doing it in the sense of the first like before you even have a deal. And I totally get that too. Like I've noticed for myself a lot of times, I really like if like what'll happen is I'll get like a lot of deals where it's like 100K month or whatever. And then I'm like, okay, now we have to have plus 100K months forever. Like we've done this, we got this 142K deal. Now every single deal after this has to
Yep.
be 100K month. Obviously, it doesn't work that way when you're like starting. Like it'll grow to there, but it's going to fluctuate a little bit. I just think I love that idea of giving ourselves pats on the backs for even little things, because it's so important in the sense of like motivating ourselves and not getting down on ourselves. That even those little things are a win. So I appreciate you sharing that to start with. So, okay, real estate agent has a bunch of cars, recession hits. You skipped a little bit over in the sense that like you then cold called in like 2011, but what was in between 2008 and 2011? Did you take a break from real estate or what happened
A
there?
lot of Jägermeister.
Just a ton of drinking.
Yeah, just a ton of self-loathing and putting myself in a shell and dealing with attorneys suing me as a kid. I felt like a kid. I was like, I have no idea what's happening. I did a little bit of things here and there. I helped people buy properties at auction and just kind of scrape by. But it was a good 24 months of just being pathetic before I really kind of climbed out of that. It was really like 2009 to 2011. And then, I found out that my son was going to be born at the end of 2011. So that really got me going. And I started clawing back with just being a real estate agent again. And I did that and then started making calls as a real estate agent for a long time. And then I realized that there was a lot of buyers buying in really good areas and renovating these older houses. So I started door knocking those properties with a group of people and door knocked 15,000 houses with a group of 6 of us. And we had these polos on. It said neighborhood ambassadors on the back. It was very cute. It was very cute. But I realized that, when somebody would give me a piece of paper for the information of the owner's house down the street that was vacant, they gave me a name and a phone number. That's all I needed. If I had a name, address, phone number, I could find deals as long as they were rough looking houses. And so I started shifting my efforts of being a real estate agent to understanding wholesale. Gotcha. And that really kicked off in the back part of 2013 and then 14. I was still kind of playing both sides. And then 15, I really started getting into wholesaling. And then 16, I joined Wholesaling Inc. and the Rhino Tribe, tripled my income from there and just have been going bananas since.
So I want to also, because I find it interesting. I love when I interview people talking about their dark times a little bit.
Yeah.
And getting into it because that's how I see this podcast is like helping you through the dark time, whether you're going forward or that's what the lion is like that is like you facing your fears.
Love it.
So talk a little bit about, because I'm not a dad, like when you were drinking Jaeger, you're just having the worst time ever.
Yeah.
And then you just find out your son is there. And what was the feeling? Like, describe what happened.
I kind of had it in my mind, if I'm being honest, that I gave myself the excuse. I'm going to party until I have a kid.
Interesting.
That was just, and by the way, like I wasn't like hanging out on street corners or anything. Like I was still alive. I was still doing stuff kind of, but not really. And so found out, instantly stopped and started kicking ass. So
I love
that's the thing with me, like, but I have an interesting perspective on it. Like, I don't blame anybody that goes through that period. I don't blame anybody that doesn't go through that period. I don't think that you should or you shouldn't. I think you should live your life. But I think I've got a lot of perspective on a lot of different people and a lot of different situations because I've experienced a lot. So do I regret it? No, I don't regret it. I mean, it's part of my journey. It's part of my path. And I think if people are on that path and they're listening to this and they want to get off, then get off. You choose it. If you want to stay on it, stay on it. Live your life. You know what I mean? Like, do your thing. But if you want to have a large income that's equal to the amount of value that you provide to the community or the marketplace. So if you're not providing any value, then you're not going to make any money. You're not going to make any income. So once I figured that out, I was just like, okay, I'm going to just go out and try to provide as much value as possible and get loud about it. So I don't think that there's any, to be honest with you, it's difficult for me to talk about it because I literally don't remember it. I mean, I say Jaeger just I see it in very little clips. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
Like it's
'Cause
not.
it's just so not you anymore,
Well,
basically.
I just don't. Well, maybe I killed enough brain cells, but no, I don't know if I don't know. I think I've done a good job in my life of living right now.
Right.
You know what I mean? And people talk about being present or whatever else. I don't know. I really don't know about any of that, but I know that I have goals that I'm looking at. I know what stuff not to do just now, and I don't really think about the past. I really don't.
I love it. That's amazing. That's good.
Yeah.
I'm glad it doesn't like linger with you too much or at all. So, okay, you join Wholesaling Inc. For my audience, what is Wholesaling Inc? What happened? You join it. What happens? What's the rest of the story?
So it started with a podcast and an incredible podcast. It's the biggest podcast in our niche of
Love it.
wholesaling real estate. I heard the podcast and I wanted to be close to Tom Kroll. I wanted to learn from him, and so I joined it. And so I invested in the program and myself, and just got loud in the groups, and to the point where he's like, "Hey, wait a second, you're helping out a lot of people in the groups. Do you want to like coach?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, how do you get your deals?" I said, "I cold call." He's like, "What?" He goes, you can't teach people to cold call. Nobody will do it." And I said, "They'll do it if they get deals." And he goes, "You really that's how if I said to you, you have to get a deal in the next 48 hours, what would you do?" I said, "I'd call until, I couldn't talk anymore." "Really?" "Yeah." "All right, you're a coach." And so I became a coach, and TTP took off, and that was the brand that stands for Talk to People. That's the fundamental that I think talking to people is the biggest skill that a real estate entrepreneur can develop. And so I've coached thousands of people around the country, and I'll keep doing it forever.
I love it. So TTP, so it started as cold call coaching. I'm curious because I'm not a student of yours. Like, is it just cold call coaching? Is it like every single part of wholesaling?
No, now it's everything. Now it's everything.
Okay.
It's really the whole process, A to Z.
Okay.
How to stay profitable, how to build $1 million business without you being in it at some point, Jonah.
Right.
All right. At some point, after you've built up all the things and every part of the process.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Gotcha. I'm just curious for my own curiosity. Like, how did you meet Jamil and Pace? I'm just curious because I'm a sub-2 student and an Astro student. Like, I'm curious. How'd you meet them? How'd you become friends with them?
Pace was one of my students.
That's crazy.
Yeah, Pace became a TTP student. And so he was in Phoenix, and he's like, "Hey, I just joined your program. Can I come meet you with my wife and Laura?" And they were pregnant at the time. And they came in, and we just had a great conversation. We just hit it off right away. And then I was selling a lot of deals to Jamil's business partner, Josiah.
Mm-hmm.
And then I met Jamil. And then we had a meetup that was put on by Sean Terry's right-hand man, Brandon Simmons, phenomenal guy. And we would meet once a month with the top real estate investors, and Jerry Norton sitting there, clever investor Cody Sperber sitting there, Jamil sitting there, Pace is sitting there, Steve Trang sitting there. So yeah, we would all get together and support each other, and a lot of names that you might not have heard of that do way more business. That was incredible. So it was just a mastermind.
Love it. My last question that I always like asking people that to end it is always like, if you could go back to Brent Daniels at right when he started in real estate, like I'm gonna go with right when you started as a real estate agent. I might know the answer, but like if we start with real estate agent, but like what's the one thing you tell yourself?
Stay on the phones.
Interesting. Just stay on the phones. That's it. It's like, don't get off the phones. Don't get like super in your head that you're like the hottest thing on planet Earth. Just stay on the phones.
People think it's like you get educated and then you take action and that equals results, right? Mm-hmm. But in reality, in real life, it's you take the action, you get the results, and that is your education.
Right.
And I think if people understand that in our business, they're gonna blow it out of the water. They're gonna do phenomenal. But I would just anybody starting out, I would put it in your head that stay on the phones until you have 300,000 in your account. You've paid off all of your consumer debt, and you've got a pipeline of leads that it's going to keep feeding you for the next 90 days. Then bring some people on. Nobody will listen to me, by the way. Nobody will listen to me. Like I don't know, 60 people that listen to me are all millionaires now. But don't worry about that. Just be creative. Go read your business books. Go talk about, EOS and attraction and all this other things about being a visionary, and see how fast it goes for you. But and I'm not trying to crap on anybody here. I'm just being honest. The people that stay on and stay in the pocket and do the work hit that millionaire status way faster. We got a ton of unbelievable resources at ttpinsider.com. ttpinsider.com. And the second way is join me on my YouTube channel, where we go live at least twice a week. Mondays for Wholesale Hotline with Pace and Jamil, and Wednesdays I do a 2-hour show every Wednesday morning for question and answers. So if any of this resonated, that's great. I was always told, Jonah, and this is just some advice for you, they either turn you up or they turn you off, right? So be yourself, go out there, give the best advice that you can based on your experience. If people take it, they take it. If not, there's probably somebody else better to learn from.
Love it. Amazing. All right, everybody, because I keep forgetting to say this, like, comment, and subscribe if you're enjoying this content. Follow Brent Daniels on YouTube. He has amazing content. Like I told him, he was one of the first people I found on YouTube. And like I learned a lot of cold calling tips from your YouTube videos. So it's cool that I get to talk to you now on this podcast. So appreciate you coming on. Next week, we got Logan Manzanares. I don't know if you know him, Brent, but he's a sub-2 student. He's amazing. It'll be great. That one will be at 5 p.m. PST. Like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see y'all next time.